Good evening, all. We'll get started with a public hearing for Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. First item on the agenda, 2.1, is adoption of tonight's agenda for the public hearing. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor G. Should be no additions, so all in favor? It's carried. Under 3.1, I will now read aloud the public hearing statement. Public hearing dated December 14th, 2021, held at the Village of Valemount, Council Chambers at 735 Cranberry Lake Road, Valemount, BC, VOE 270. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to the terms of the Local Government Act prior to consideration of 3 items. Number 1, temporary use permit 2106, temporary residential structure at 23 Cedar Street. Number 2, temporary use permit 2107, temporary residential structure at 1280 Juniper Street. And number 3, temporary use permit 2108, temporary residential structure at 1975 Hillside Mine Road. At a public hearing, any person present who believes that they are affected by a matter being considered shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matter contained in the proposal. Members of the public speaking to the proposal should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to this council by stating your name and area of residence, at which time you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposal. Anyone who deems their interests are affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. All who submit comments at this public hearing will restrict their remarks to the matters contained in the proposal, and it's my responsibility as chairperson of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. At the conclusion of a public hearing, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representation made at the hearing. Item 4 under section 4, temporary use permit 2106, proposed RV use at 23 Cedar Street. 4.1 will have a presentation by staff. Ms. Eddy.
Good evening. The first item on tonight's public hearing agenda is an application for a temporary use permit requesting to permit 1 temporary structure to be used as a residence for a period of 2 years. Temporary use permit 2106 proposes to allow 1 recreational vehicle to be parked on the property at 23 Cedar Street. The property is legally described as Lot B, District Lot 9778, Caribou District Plan EPP 67986. The application satisfies the requirements outlined in the Temporary Residential Structure Policy Number 83, including water, sewer, and power servicing, as well as garbage disposal and structure location. The RV has been approved by the building inspector. At the regular council meeting of November 23rd, council gave initial approval for the proposed temporary use permit. Since then, adjacent property owners have been notified of the proposal, and affected residents have been invited to provide feedback via written submissions to the village office or at this evening's public hearing.
And as of this public hearing, under 4.2, have there been any written submissions received?
No, not as of noon today.
Noon today, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any verbal presentations from the public? For a second time, verbal presentations from the public? And for a third, any verbal presentations from the public? Under 4.4, are there any presentations by the proponent? Under 4.5, there will be no responses to questions or comments raised by the public. So under 4.6, are there any questions of staff and or the proponent by council? Moving on, section 5, temporary use permit 2107, proposed RV use at 1280 Juniper Street. Under 5.1, we have a presentation by staff.
The second item on tonight's public hearing is an application for a temporary use permit requesting to permit a temporary structure for a residence for 2 years. Temporary use permit 2107 proposes to allow 1 recreational vehicle to be parked on the property at 1280 Juniper Street. The property legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 7356, Caribou District Plan 10557. Application satisfies the requirements outlined in the temporary residential structure policy, including water, sewer, power, garbage disposal, and structure location. The RV has been approved by the building inspector. At the regular council meeting of November 23rd, council gave initial approval for the proposed temporary use permit. Since then, adjacent property owners were notified, and affected residents have been invited to provide feedback via written submission or at tonight's public hearing.
Have there been any written submissions received?
Nope, none for this one as well.
Thank you. Are there any verbal presentations from the public? Second time, verbal presentations from the public. Temporary use permit, 1280 Juniper Street. Third and final, verbal presentations from the public. Are there any presentations by the proponent? No responses. Are there any questions of staff or the proponent by council? Section 6, temporary use permit. Temporary use permit 2108, proposed RV use at 1975 Hillside Mine Road. 6.1, presentation by staff. Miss Eddy, welcome back.
So the last item on tonight's public hearing agenda is another application for a temporary use permit, requesting to permit one temporary structure for a residence for 2 years. Temporary use permit 2108 proposes to allow one recreational vehicle to be parked on the property at 1975 Hillside Mine Road. The property is legally described as Lot A, District Lot 7354, Caribou District Plan BCP 8204. This application satisfies all requirements in the temporary residential structure policy, including water, sewer, power servicing, garbage disposal, and structure location, and has also been approved by the building inspector. At the regular council meeting of November 23rd, council gave initial approval for the proposed temporary use permit, and since then, adjacent property owners have been notified, and affected residents have been invited to provide feedback, also via written submission or at tonight's public hearing.
Have there been any written submissions received?
Yes, we received one comment from Maureen Brownlee and Ron Bear at 2365 Hillside Mine Road, and they stated that as adjacent property owners, we wish to state that we support the temporary use permit 2108 and have no objections whatsoever for the proposed use.
Thank you very much. Are there any verbal presentations from the public? Second call, verbal presentations from the public. Third and final, verbal presentations from the public. Are there any presentations by the proponent?
I was just here to answer questions if anybody had any, just to make sure. I wasn't sure how easily these applications are going through. And this was pretty important to me, so.
Okay, thanks very much. There might be a question now that there's a proponent in the room.
Yeah. Why have it?
Seeing how there was no verbal presentation from the public, there's no responses. So under 6.6, are there any questions of staff or the proponent by members of council? Thank you. Off the hook, Mr. Mickelson. I'll now adjourn this public hearing. I'll now call to order the regular meeting of council, Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. First up on the agenda, 2.1, adoption of this evening's agenda. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, are there any additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Well, you can amend, delete, add. Item 3.1, sorry, that was carried. Item 3.1, adoption of the minutes of November 23rd, 2021, regular meeting of council. Councillor MacLean, Councillor G. Any errors or omissions arising? All in favor? It's carried. Under 4.1, we do have a delegation from the Valemount Community Forest and the Valemount Industrial Park here to give a biannual update to the shareholder. Mr. Pryor, it's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, so we're obligated to have 2 shareholder meetings per year. So we had one in June. So and here's our December one, year end, well, not quite year end, but close to. So we have 2 companies that we share limited partnership with, the Valemount Community Forest and the Valemount Industrial Park. So I'll just go through briefly each one, and we'll allow for questions at the end, if that's cool. For the Valemount Community Forest Limited Partnership, the financials. So total net earnings in 2021 as of November 1st is 1.5 million. Total expense for 2021 is 6.1 million as of November 1st. So far it's been a good year. Markets were kind of up and down, but it seems to be fine. We've adjusted nicely and many times it feels like, but it was actually turned out to be a good year. Just harvesting and road activities, just a brief kind of what we're doing, where we're at. So we're currently harvesting up the West Canoe at 42 kilometer and 37 kilometer. We're building roads up the Dave Henry and West Canoe right now. This winter we'll be up the West Canoe and then up the West Ridge to end the year. We have to leave the West Canoe because of the avalanche hazard, and the West Ridge is a good solid year-end spot. So that's what we're doing there. We just installed a bridge at 15.5 up the Dave Henry, and we're currently building a road on the far side of the bridge. This area is planned for harvest next summer, so it's costing a bit to keep the road open, but it's a very important road for us for next year. Summer ground is getting harder and harder to access over time. So in the new year, early new year in January, we plan to build a road across the newly installed bridge up the upper Canoe, and this road will access a woodlot. This is the same general area as the road that goes to Crystal Ridge. We're just kind of getting away. We had to get away from the private property. And we have a small block actually as well to log up there. So that's going to happen sometime mid-January, I'm guessing. See how things go. Due to the wet fall, we have wood decked all over the place, and we're trying to catch up. We're at roughly 150 loads decked up in the VC yard, 120 up the West Canoe, about 20 loads up the Dave Henry. And we're basically playing catch up. And we don't have enough trucks to do this game. So we're decking wood, lots of wood in the yard, and we plan to, as soon as we're done logging in end of March-ish, we'll start hauling out of the yard, and hopefully we'll have that all emptied by June 1st in time to start logging again. So it'll be a good solid year for the local trucks, I would guess, I would hope. On the recreation side, we're working towards a plan to harvest ski runs for the Belmont Ski Society. So we've upgraded a bridge at 11.5 up the West Ridge to access this area. It just needed to work. It had rotten abutments, so we had to replace the abutments. We have more work to do next summer, but we're kind of rushed. And we're working on rationale to allow for harvesting in a visually sensitive area. The top half of these proposed ski runs, you can see that. I think you'll be able to see it very well from Abernathy's, that kind of direction. So that's all under visual quality objectives. So we have to send a rationale in. And I think we have all our ducks in a row. I don't foresee a problem there. The harvesting is set to start roughly mid-January, kind of when we pull out of the West Canoe. Then we'll go there. It might be a little later, or it might be a little earlier, depends on the avalanche hazard. But that's kind of traditionally this timeline. Grants. So we've funded over 60,000 for community support programs in 2021. These are a few, but I don't think they're all, so I apologize if I miss somebody. Outdoor games for the elementary school, the beekeepers program, the Belmont Art Walk program, the 5 mile, fixing up the 5 mile road slump in the spring, Robson Valley Community Services, Meals on Wheels, Food Bank, the Belmont Secondary School Bursary, Grant Writer program, plus the board discretionary fund. I'm not sure what we've done there. It's kind of if some emergency comes up or if there's some kind of opportunity, we have a fund there. The board can at their discretion support. And we've just awarded, I can't remember the number. I believe it's roughly $10,000 for the grant program in 2022. The board really tackles this. I kind of stay out of this program, so I should know the number, but I know it's roughly $10,000. So that's what I have for VCF. Is there any questions you guys have?
Any questions so far on the BCF? Councillor?
Just a couple quick ones. Just wondering how the old growth deferral and the tariffs are affecting you guys. I mean, they're both pretty big punches. So
Yeah. The tariffs haven't touched us yet. We tender all our wood at the start of the winter. This was before the tariffs came on. Mm-hmm. So we have contracts set for all our wood for the entire winter. Okay. So that hasn't touched us. I guess we'll see what happens in the spring. The markets, I hear lumber's hit over $1,000 again, so probably won't hurt us too badly, I'm guessing.
Okay.
But we'll see. The old growth, that's a bit more complicated, that one. We're working through it. We've been in many meetings. We've heard from the Simp First Nation and the Clearly-10A. Those are the two big ones in the Robson Valley, and they cover the entire valley from north to south. They are for pro-industry. They don't want to hurt industry in the short term. So we're following their lead there. We tendered out all our winter program, which includes some old growth, a little under half. We tendered that out before this all came, and we awarded the contracts and signed contracts. So we're kind of under contractual obligation to log these areas. We can tweak them a bit, which we will, I believe. I'm trying to. But not all. Some of the areas were destined for Cedar Valley Holdings. So if we stop logging those areas, then we have legal issues with the fiber agreement, and we may end up putting them down, right? Because he generally logs cedar in the wintertime. Yeah. So if we can't log all winter, then you get to summer, you can't log, he runs out of wood, and then now what, right?
Very complicated.
So it's a very complicated thing. We're following First Nations lead, which is one of the main things the government wanted. And we've talked to the government about this, letting them know what our situation is with tendering on the wood and contract signed and fiber agreement signed. We plan to do a rationale just for the winter, not for indefinitely, just for the winter, saying this is where we're at, this is where we're going, and they seem fine with that. Basically, we're following timber sales lead, BC Timber Sales. If they've awarded sales, they've signed the contracts, regardless of old growth, they can log. And we see ourselves in the same situation for the winter.
Right. Okay.
So we'll see what happens in the summer and the spring. I'm sure something will come about to clarify. Maybe it will. I doubt it, actually, honestly. But we'll keep talking to Simp First Nation and Clearly-10A, and we'll get some direction from them. And we've already asked for meetings and for more information from them. And we're kind of on baby steps mode with this one, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And great news on the ski run. That's a huge step for the community. So
yeah, for sure. It'll be a fun project to be part of.
Yeah.
We're all happy to be helpful.
Yeah, it should be good.
Which ski runs yet? They're logging blocks.
Well, yes.
Which will be ski runs.
Potential.
That's why we have to look
Yeah.
at these visual quality objectives. Any other questions? Onward and up to the
Onward.
industrial park.
Industrial park. Industrial park. So we have a net revenue of $676,000 as of November 1st, and a total net earnings of $27,000. And the mill expenses, which is 1.8 million for 2021, have been I removed those because those will be a capital cost when we do the financial year end. So we paid 1.8 million towards the mill this year, and most of that 676,000, we kind of just we were constantly upgrading and spending on the park, just because it was in such an old dilapidated state. It just needs investment, right? So the financials we're keeping up, I guess. The yard lease updates, we're currently leasing to 15 companies. Cedar Valley Holdings, Trans Mountain Camp, Trans Mountain Pipe Yard, the Treasures of the Forest, BC Stone Corp, Robson Valley Gourmet Mushrooms, the Learning Center Veggie Container, Dunkley Lumber, Canfor, Remcan, Trans Mountain Fallers, Telus, Simp First Nation, Downey Timber, and the Valemount Community Forest. So it's busy. We got lots of different types of people or companies in there too, right? Which is really what we hope for. We hope it wasn't just a forestry-oriented business, and it's turning out that way. So that's good. Yard infrastructure. So in partnership with Cedar Valley Holdings and Trans Mountain, we're about 2/3 of the way through our water reservoir reactivation. This will form the base of the yard firefighting system. Really, we just ran out of time. Winter came, and you need frost-free conditions to set the liner. So that's kind of where we're at. The pump house is in, the pumps are there, the pipe from the reservoir to the pump house is in. So we're getting there. We're probably 2/3 of the way through, and hope to finish in the spring. So that's good. We've been working on that for a couple of years now, so it's nice to see. So when the Telus Tower comes, they're saying January, but I'm not sure I have a whole lot of faith in that one, as January's coming rapidly and it's minus 15 out. So when the Telus Tower comes, they're going to hook up fiber optics to their tower and install to the VCF office. So we have the poles up. We had the fiber optics is into their pipe yard and to their camp as well, but into the pipe yard. And we put the poles up, and the idea was that it would come directly when they set theirs up, but it didn't work out that way, unfortunately. Communication issue or something, right? But it's coming, so I'm confident. The poles are up and it's ready. The electrical system is in good shape in the yard, which is great. The mill update. So phase 1's complete, and this includes a log-in feed, a debarker, a head rig, a main waste conveyor, cut-off saw, vibrating conveyor, a metal detector, a chipper, a shaker screen, and chip in. So we call phase 1, where you can just run it. We can throw logs on the deck and run it right through. Cans come out one way and chips come out the other. Sawdust comes out one way, and I guess hog comes out another way. So that's all generally ready with a couple of minor tweaks. Phase 2 is basically the edger system with the in-feed and out-feed. That's all physically in. We just have to work on the electrical on that part, and we're getting ready to start that now.
Just 1 second, Mr. Pryor. We're just coming up on 15 minutes. I just want to gauge council. Do you want to extend? Councillor G, Councillor Blanchette, all in favor? It's carried. Please continue.
Okay, I'm getting close.
No,
Sorry, long-winded
I'm sure
here.
there's going to be questions, so.
Yeah, electrical, so phase 1 is complete. We're just working on just some tweaking, and this edger will start next. Hydraulics, just minor tweaks. The the carriage is going a little too fast and it's causing a bit of a wobble at the end. So there's a button there. We just got to figure out how to turn it on and slow it down. So they think they figured it out. The crew's working on guarding and conveyors right now. General plan is to start testing each piece of equipment. When we're satisfied mill function, we'll organize startup. So testing has started. The first log went through October 26. With minor tweaking, but overall pretty good results. Right now we have electrical fuse to replace and are waiting for a part this controls one of the conveyors up to the chip bin. So you can't really run it without or else everything piles up. So little things like that are biting us. Crews, so we test, we look and see where sawdust shows up and we fix it. So we're trying to minimize anywhere that dust will show, because dust is a very serious fire hazard going into the future, and there's real strict standards, so we're trying to avoid that. So that's coming. The last time we started up, we had 2 spots. They fixed those. So I'm really curious to see when they fire this thing up again to see if there's any dust showing anywhere, which is really nice. Timbers coming out of the mill are square and look good. The chips, I think, will meet pulp standards. We sent them off to 2 pulp mills. The markets are very strong, lots of interest. So we're in the right direction, looking good that way. We get about 80 loads in the yard of hemlock and spruce. We're trickling in from VCF operations. We bought 20 to 30 loads from Gorman Brothers down the East Canoe. Expecting to purchase saw log from Carrier Lumber in the near, hemlock saw log. And we're working at chip markets with Domtar in Kamloops and Canfor and Prince George. So, yeah. So that's what I have. Is there questions?
Questions? Councillor Blanchette?
Just a comment. So kudos on the 15-yard leases, because that's a good diversity of different businesses. So that's really nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you. We try to keep an open mind. And we like, things like veggie containers and mushrooms and stuff. That's cool stuff, right?
Yeah, it's
So we
nice to
try to
have all the
encourage
different
that,
stuff.
and that's great.
Yeah.
And we hope that having it there will encourage more people to
Have you got
come
more
set up.
spaces?
We have small spaces, kind of bits and pieces here and there.
Okay.
And we have some, we have a little bit more room, but not that much. If you want to come in and get like 5 acres, it's actually kind of hard right now,
Okay.
which is, I guess, a good problem. But
Yeah.
But for container style businesses,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can,
yeah, we have corners we can fit lots of people into if we need to, right? For sure. Yeah, and we're open.
other questions? On the dust, Mr. Pryor, what happens next? You've seen that dust isn't accumulating or staying in the air. Instead of going to a blower system, what has to happen next?
Well, what we really need to do is run the mill for about a week and actually have it run solid so that the dust kind of accumulate where it's going to accumulate. And then we've talked to dust engineers, like these specific engineers that deal with dust, and have them come in. And our mill manager, Steve, has worked in many places, but he's really well informed with dust. And he's been looking for small systems, we've had quotes for like $750,000 and stuff for these huge, gigantic systems that aren't necessary. So we've kind of went away from that and went to, we'll tighten up everything we possibly can, and then in the end, if we still need a spot, we'll put a small system here and a small system there, and hopefully that'll cover it. But we just need to run the thing for, a week to see what happens, right? And maybe we won't need anything. I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Well, it is one of those rare mills where the floors are not made out of 2x4s up on end. They're actually metal floors and
Yeah.
lowers the hazard a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Everything's steel.
Maybe
in
not
there.
the explosive hazard, but
No, I'm sure. Yeah, in the right conditions it would burn, just like everything would. But we tried to minimize everything that way, right? So, yeah. It's coming.
Further questions? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pryor. I really appreciate you reaching out to the shareholder for the biannual update. I do wish to congratulate you on your phase 1 make ready for your first log that came through on October 26th. I also really appreciate you working with various community groups. Later this evening, we'll be entertaining your VQO's requirements, and should council wish it, we'll move forward on that. So,
Great.
looking for. Oh, I had one. The Varda Bridge. What's happening with that at the Upper Canoe Main Line?
We have Alpine lined up to remove it. It's kind of a bigger deal, right? You got to take it all apart and cut it in half and then put it on trucks. So
Yeah.
they're lined up to do that.
It's not a small task.
No, we were supposed to do it, but then when we finished the bridge, the plan was that for them to do it then, but their timing didn't work and they had to leave.
Yeah.
And here we are, mid-December, and it's -15, right?
Hey, the ground's hard. You got something going for
Yeah,
you.
it is what it is, right? But we're on it. It'll be out before too long.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Really
Welcome.
appreciate it.
Anytime.
Motion to receive, Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson. Any comments from council on the delegation? All in favor of receipt? It's carried. We have some correspondence for action from the Regional District Fraser Fort George. And it is the consent process for the Fire Department Coordination Service Establishment Bylaw number 1990, Amendment Bylaw number 3235, 2021. The recommendation here that notification be provided to the Regional District Fraser Fort George by way of certified resolution as follows. Indicating that a municipality consents on behalf of the electors to adoption of the Regional District Bylaw number 8235, 2021. Whereas the Regional Board is considering the adoption of Fire Department Coordination Service Establishment Bylaw number 1990, Amendment Bylaw number 3235, 2021. Safe travels, Mr. Pryor. And whereas the entire area of the Village of Belmont is a participating area for the above service, and whereas Council of the municipality believes that it is in the best interest of the electors to consent to, on their behalf, to the above bylaw, now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Village of Belmont hereby gives consent to the adoption of the Fire Department Coordination Service Establishment Bylaw number 1990, Amendment Bylaw number 3235, 2021 by the Board of Directors of the Regional District of Fraser Fort George, and that the Regional District be so advised. Do I have a mover? Councillor G, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion. No discussion? 25% increase? 5 years not going to the Inspector of Municipalities? That is very true. Further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Is there anything in the reading file council would like to bring forward? I saw a finger. No? I understand, Councillor MacLean, that the 9th round of negotiations has started.
Yes, we will be meeting tomorrow morning. There's 2 meetings tomorrow, one for the socioeconomic of Kinbasket Lake with another group, and then the update for the negotiations is happening at, I believe, 11 tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you. Not that any of that was in it, just the Upper Columbia Reservoir update caught my interest.
2 of them actually in there for 2 weeks there.
Moving on. Administrative reports, 8.1. Accounts payable report, November 2021, that the report be received. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. All in favor? It's carried. 8.2, building inspection report for November 2021, that report be received. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson. Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8.3 Bylaw Services Report, November 2021, that the report be received. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor G. Discussion. Councillor Pearson.
Just nice to see some proactive results on the work of the bylaw officer out there. It looks like he's on top of things and keeping busy, so
Yep.
doing a good job.
Very cool. Further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8.4 Holiday Office Closure. Recommendation that the report be received. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion. Next week.
Well deserved.
Indeed. All in favor? It's carried. 8.5 Columbia Basin Trust Neil Muth Scholarship. Recommendation here, the Village of Belmont contribution of $500 to the Columbia Basin Trust Neil Muth Scholarship Fund be extended for an additional 5 years. Councillor Pearson, Councillor MacLean, discussion. Of course, Mr. Muth was the former president and CEO of the trust, and yeah, he certainly did. All in favor? Carried. 8.6, 2022 Deputy Mayor Appointment Schedule. That the schedule be approved. Councillor Pearson, Councillor G. Any discussion? Alphabetical, month by month. All in favor? It's carried. 8.7 Committees of Council, recognition to past members. We have a number of them. So that the following individuals be recognized for their time and commitment to the Village of Valemount Committees of Council. Valemount Housing Committee. John Grogan, Riley Coulter Kraus, Jennifer Applebaum, Rushby Narian, Shirley Sander, Jules Phillip, Shirley McKillop, Dee McEachran, and Beth Russell. For the Columbia Basin Trust Adjudication Committee, Beth Russell, Cindy Eddy, Tom Jamin, Hugo Mullock, Rushby Narian, Ellen Duncan, and Bob Gray. For the Clean Air Task Force, Lena Thompson. And for the outgoing Tourism Valemount Committee, Nima Kay, Jay Lee, Christine Latimer, Yoon Jin Lee, Diane Fowler, Patricia Toney, Curtis Polyuk, Terry Power. Of course, the motion, please. Councillor G, Councillor MacLean, discussion. Councillor Blanchette.
Just a huge thank you to everyone. Volunteering is a huge time commitment. A lot of energy goes into all of these committees, and I'd like to thank everybody wholeheartedly for all their time and effort into all the committees.
I'm sure it's ditto from every corner in this chamber. All in favor? It's carried. Under 8.8, recognition to Miss Robinson, Marketing Coordinator, Tourism Valemount. The recommendation here is to formally extend thanks to Miss Jennifer Robinson for her commitment and accomplishments as Marketing Coordinator for Tourism Valemount Committee. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion. Councillor Pearson.
Excuse me. Yeah, I just want to thank Ms. Robinson for all the years that she's put into it and devoted herself to promoting the village. So we wish her the best going forward.
Absolutely. Further discussion? All in favor? Carries. 8.9, letter to District Manager of the Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resource Operations, public support for VGDR. Recommendation here that a letter be provided to the District Manager of the Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resources Operations, Prince George, regarding public support of ski runs in the proposed area of VGDR. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor G, Discussion?
It's exciting going forward, and to hear Community Forest is doing those ski runs. I'm going to go out now and look at Abernathy's and see if I can see anything. Yeah, okay, good to know.
But the VQOs are extended right to Highway 5. Further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8.10, temporary use permit 2106 at 23 Cedar Street. Recommendation here, the TUP 2106 for 23 Cedar Street, legally described as Lot B, District Lot 9778, Caribou District Plan EPP 67986, proposing a temporary residential structure, be given final approval. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion. All in favor? It's carried. 8.11, temporary use permit 2107 at 1280 Juniper Street. Recommendation here that TUP 2107 for 1280 Juniper Street, legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 7356, Caribou District Plan 10557, proposing a temporary residential structure, be given final approval. Councillor G, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. All in favor? It's carried. 8.12, temporary use permit 2108 at 1975 Hillside Mine Road. Recommendation here that TUP 2108 at 1975 Hillside Mine Road, legally described as Lot 8, District Lot 7354, Caribou District Plan BCP 8204, proposing a temporary residential structure, be given final approval. Councillor Pearson, Councillor G, discussion. All in favor? It's carried. 8.13, temporary use permit 2109 at 1460 7th Avenue. Recommendation here that temporary use permit 2109 for 1460 7th Avenue, legally described as Lot 13, District Lot 7354, Caribou District Plan 18453, except parcel AN17910, proposing a temporary residential structure, be given final approval. Initial, pardon me. Thank you. Thank you for that initial point of order. Is that a mover then? Councillor Blanchette, Councillor G. Discussion on initial approval. Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Section 9, bylaws and policies, 9.1, Village of Valemount wood burning appliance regulation amendment bylaw number 848, 2021 be adopted as presented. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, any discussion? Much thanks to the Clean Air Task Force for bringing this forward. All in favor? It's carried. 9.2, Village of Valemount bylaw notice enforcement and dispute adjudication amendment bylaw number 8. We have to find an acronym for that. Dispute adjudication amendment bylaw number 850 2021 be adopted as presented. Councillor G, Councillor MacLean, any discussion?
Just that, as always, education is our first step. That's what we want to really enforce, is the education piece.
And when morale improves, the beatings will stop.
There you go.
Further discussion, all in favor? It's carried. 9.3, Village of Belmont fees and charges amendment bylaw number 854 be adopted as presented. Councillor G, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. All in favor? It's carried. And 9.4, Village of Belmont Council Code of Conduct Policy number 85, 2021 be approved. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion. Anybody gonna wiggle their way out? All in favor? It's carried. Oh, I think that goes against the
Yeah.
Policy 85. Does anybody have a notice of motion to bring forward? On to council reports. Councillor G? Thank you. Councillor Blanchette.
On the 13th, we had our Child and Youth Mental Health meeting, and on November 25th, we had our housing. And I just want to put a bug in council's ear that in the new year, the Housing Committee would like to just have an informal talk with council and just see what direction everybody sees everybody going, and what we'd like to see happen from that committee. Okay, so it's a discussion we can have further in the new year.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Councillor Pearson.
November 24th, sat in on the Kinbasket Debris Management meeting call. It was kind of interesting, learned a few things. One thing I did find interesting is, in light of the global move away from greenhouse gases, is they're going to try and put some pressure on to look at alternatives to burning the piles and doing something a little more proactive with them. So it was a good discussion, and with any luck, in-person meetings being permitted, the next meeting would be here in the spring.
Yes.
So, November 26th, Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association meeting, continuing to promote Highway 16 from Manitoba to Haida Gwaii and Highway 5 corridor. They've also integrating with Indigenous tourism, Alberta, and moving in that direction as well as to find common ground for promotion. So, December 1st, I sat in on a wood smoke webinar put on by the BC Lung Association. Some pretty scary stats. I was actually surprised how much wood smoke is a problem in the Lower Mainland, how many people still burn wood in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver. It's just like, okay. December 2nd, the Canoe Valley Recreation Center Community Consultation Committee meeting, looking at budget for 2022 for Canoe Valley Recreation Center. And December 7th, DMO/tourism meeting as we move forward. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor MacLean.
I have nothing to report this time.
Tomorrow, I'm sure, will be different.
Yes, it will.
Thanks very much. November 24th, sat in for the morning at the Rec Sites and Trails Southern Ontario Planning Session. Really, it was a meet and greet with all the department heads from, Williams Lake all the way this way, Kamloops and Ford, as well as the provincial manager, Rec Sites and Trails. November 25th, took part in Creston for with the Columbia Basin Management Planning Session, basically looking at 2022 forward. We haven't been able to meet in person for any symposiums and or public engagement other than online. So forging ahead with the current 6 pillars of priority for the basin, as well as climate change and Indigenous planning. On the same day, I was a panelist for a housing presentation called Ready or Not, the Metropolitan Move to Non-Metropolitan Areas. Gave a local government look at where housing is in smaller communities. And if you're not aware, BC towns under 100,000 are half the population. And so not just Valemount or McBride or Blue River for that matter, but we're not alone in that housing. And the other presenters were the CEO of the Columbia Valley Chamber of Commerce. So he brought a business look to what housing needs look like, and then also we had a well-known developer also attend the session giving a look at what affordability looks like with the price of lumber right now. So, given the land and, access to infrastructure, he can build cheaper in Vancouver than he can in rural BC. Not surprising. November 26th and 27th, we're still in Creston for Columbia Basin Trust Board. December 3rd, I met with John Hybris, District Manager of Ministry of Forests, and Len Stratton, BC Timber Sales, Prince George business area. Ainsley Jackman and Craig Pryor for an old growth deferral debrief. We had that at the Robson Valley Fire Base, so much thanks to Darren and his team for allocating us some resources there. And again, Len said exactly what Craig mentioned tonight. If there's a contract been signed, there's been a cutting permit assigned, they are moving ahead. No new cutting permits being issued from BCTS. November 3rd, met with Councillor Pearson and gave me a debrief of the conversation with MP Zimmer. December 7th, attended a Robson Valley Roundtable around the old growth deferral, so McBride, Claylee Tenay, Simp, Prince George Industries, so Carrier Lumber, Gilbert Smith, and forest planners from Simp Resources Group. On December 7th, we're back to the Valemount Emergency Services briefing. This time was around the Omicron variant of the COVID-19 pandemic. Still a little bit too early to tell. We'll see what the results are next week. I'm hearing 45 known cases, which could spur into 2,000 real quick. So I'm not traveling as anywhere. December 13th, had a project kickoff meeting with Columbia Basin Trust and their district heating specialist, Ruben Arenello. And this afternoon, had a Columbia Basin Trust Housing Initiatives pre-meet. The committee meets tomorrow morning. Motion to receive. Councillor G, Councillor Pearson, any questions, comments on the reports? All in favor of receipt? It's carried. Are there any public comments this evening? Moving on, so we'll now give notice to proceed in camera. Under 15.1, the council proceed to an in-camera meeting for the consideration of 4 items per section 91C, E, and I of the Community Charter to discuss for matters related to C, labor relations or other employee relations, E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality, and I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Councillor Pearson, Councillor G, discussion, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you all.